In this video, we are talking about how potential Tropical Cyclone 1 will become Tropical Storm Alex as it approaches Florida. This thing is going to bring a very significant flash flooding risk as well as the potential for tornadoes. Beyond that, the Storm Prediction Center has put out a slight risk of severe weather for today, and the future looks downright hot as we go further into June. All that and more coming right up. Welcome back, y'all. Ryan Hall here with the weather forecast. It's the beginning of tropical storm and hurricane season, and fittingly, we have a tropical storm to talk about. But we also have a lot of other things to talk about, so make sure you watch the whole video here. We've got a lot happening over the next little bit, so let's not waste any time and get right into it. All right, starting off by looking at potential Tropical Cyclone 1 here, right on the border of the Caribbean and the Gulf of Mexico. It's in the southeastern Gulf of Mexico, and we have a very lopsided and disorganized tropical system down here that is trying to wrap up into an actual depression, and then it'll be Tropical Storm Alex. And as you can see right now, it's trying to spin around a little bit, but a lot of the convection is on the eastern side. It's displaced from the actual circulation center, which is somewhere up around this region. It's pretty typical for early season systems to be all disorganized like this. It's being sheared apart at the upper levels, so the overall wind speed isn't expected to increase very much as it approaches Florida, but we do expect it to be a tropical storm by 2 p.m. today, with a wind speed around 40 miles per hour and a maximum gust around 50 miles per hour. And then once it gets closer to Florida up here, right before landfall, we're expecting 45-mile-per-hour winds and 60-mile-per-hour gusts. So it'll be a pretty windy rain bag as it goes across southern Florida, but we absolutely do not expect this to form into a hurricane or anything like that, and there is high confidence that this thing is going to be absolutely flung out to sea once it gets past Florida. This thing is going to be a fish storm, all right, and according to YouTube analytics, my audience is 40% female, 60% male, and 0% fish, so we're not going to talk about it much once it gets out here. Okay, let's take a look at this thing on the models. We're going to use the NAM 3 kilometer here just for visual aid. Remember, the cone of uncertainty here is what we're paying the most attention to, but according to the NAM 3 kilometer, this thing's going to wrap up at the 850 millibar level and go right across southern Florida. And something to note here that's really interesting is that the eastern side of this storm is going to continue to be the show stealer all the way through this thing. Now remember, usually we call this stuff nadir juice, and in this case it could also act as nadir juice as well. On the front right side of the storm, that's where all the ingredients are going to be for potential cyclonic rotation within the cyclone, which could lead to embedded tornadoes. And this is going to be possible from 3 a.m. Saturday all the way through 3 p.m. So the risk is going to be front right relative to the path, and here is a driver's seat view of what's going on here as it traverses over Florida. But then the further the NAM goes out, the less confident we become in its track and how intense it thinks the storm's going to get. Remember, we have high confidence that this thing is going to follow the path like this rather than veer off to the north here a little bit. Even if this happens though, it's still going to go out to sea. Now let's take a look at the simulated radar and try to determine when we think landfall is going to occur here. It's a very disorganized system, so it looks like maybe around 8 a.m. on Saturday the actual center of circulation is going to cross right near Cape Coral or somewhere south of there. And really, it doesn't matter where it makes landfall because the winds are going to be meh. We're talking 40, 45 mile an hour sustained winds with maybe a 60 mile an hour gust. The real threat comes from all of this red and pink you see over here, which is going to be a tremendous amount of rainfall. I was looking at the precipitable water values earlier, and there's near record moisture levels associated with this. So I promise you guys, it's going to rain hard. If you live even remotely close to a flood prone area down here, be extra weather aware. And then also on that front right quadrant, once again, we have to expect that those lower level jet stream winds may interact with some of these sails that are popping up in the bands of this storm and cause cyclonic rotation, enough so to where we could have tornadoes and water spouts over here in this portion of Florida. I would watch out from Palm Beach all the way down to Miami, as that is going to be a real possibility here. All right, and just from the NAM model, we're looking at the total precipitation here, and it's broke. Like, this thing is literally broke. It just maxes out in some areas. Like, it's not even it's not even changing the way that it's supposed to because it's literally off the charts over here. I personally do think that we're going to see some historic flooding down here in southern Florida. So I want to be very serious. If you live in a flood prone area, this is going to be an incredibly moist storm. It's going to be super wet. It's going to be dropping rain like you've never seen before. The wind and the storm surge and stuff that you normally have to worry a lot about with hurricanes and stuff, you guys don't have to worry too much about that. But the rain is going to be a little bit of a different story here. Here is the WPC forecast graphic talking about that moderate risk of flooding. And I do believe as we go into tomorrow, that could be upgraded to a very rare and unprecedented high risk for flooding down here. So to me, this is the most important part of this storm. All right, so even though this is just a tropical storm and there's really not a whole lot of things that we can talk about here other than the really crazy flood risk, this is a good reminder that we are heading into tropical storm and hurricane season. So now, if you haven't already, now is the time to prepare. Get your hurricane preparedness plan ready. Know what you're going to do whenever we start talking about that next major hurricane that could make landfall in the United States. Of course, I'm going to be here with you through the entire thing, and our live streams are going to be really useful, I think, during these things. But when it comes to tropical storms, we're going to save our resources and just do these videos for now. All right, moving right along, we've got some severe weather up here in the lower 48 to talk about. Today, we do have a slight risk of severe weather from Odessa, Lubbock, and Amarillo, Texas, over into New Mexico, and it goes all the way up into Colorado and just a little bitty tiny bit of Nebraska. And then if you didn't look, you'd miss it down here in Miami. We do have a slight risk of severe weather today, as some of those outer bands are going to be causing some heavy rain and some strong winds from Key West all the way up there to Fort Lauderdale. Let's take a look at that future radar, where the time and date's always going to be displayed above my head. Starting off at 1 p.m. today, not a lot going on in the slight risk region, but we do have some leftover rain showers west of Dallas. Those are going to fizzle out as these big storms over here pop up around 4 or 5 p.m. Eastern in New Mexico, all the way up there into Colorado. Look at this. These could have some big time damaging wind threats and of course some large hail, maybe in excess of 2 inches in diameter. That's pretty close to gorilla hail. This is around Roswell all the way up there to Fort Sumter. You guys are included in this. And then as we go into the future, some of those storms might get pretty strong around 6 or 7 p.m. in the Front Range of Colorado, east of Denver, from Fort Morgan all the way down to Lyman and Trinidad. Watch out for these storms, as hail and damaging winds are going to be possible there as well. But I do think the strongest storms are going to be popping up right here. Also, we have a marginal risk for severe weather over here in the Carolinas and portions of Georgia. This is really just for some scattered showers and thunderstorms that are going to pop up. These are mainly going to be causing some wind and maybe some hail. These are really not going to be that big of a deal. Just your average, everyday, summertime thunder boomers. And then, of course, you can see all that heavy rain moving into Florida. And on the southern side, we do have to watch out for an isolated tornado and, of course, some very strong damaging winds. Now, even though we're not live streaming the tropical storm, we do have our storm chasers out there. Storm Seeker number 4, I believe, Vince Welty's in New Mexico today. He will probably be live streaming some of these big supercell storms near Roswell. I think that's where he is. So make sure you go subscribe to Storm Chaser Vince Welty, as he is going to be providing live coverage out there today. And that's pretty much it. We have some leftover chances of showers and thunderstorms up here in the plains back into Montana for tomorrow and maybe even into Sunday. But the severe weather chances are pretty quiet as we go into the near future. But you never want to let your guard down, okay? You always got to be alert. You always want to be ready. And you know what helps you be ready? Caffeine. Who doesn't love some caffeine, son? And that brings us to today's sponsor, myself, Nader Beans, the official coffee of storm chasing and weather watching. Nader Beans is a premium single origin Colombian coffee that comes in 1-pound bags of either whole or ground goodness. This stuff is legit good. It's not average coffee, and you're gonna taste the difference. Don't just take my word for it. Just look at what professional storm chaser Brandon Kopic had to say.
Best cup of coffee I've ever had.
Remember, every purchase made on ShopRyanHall.com goes to help fund the positive things we are doing, like helping communities and people when disaster strikes, keeping storm chasers on the road, and continuing to provide life-saving information for free on the internet. Also, this stuff is packaged, processed, roasted, and shipped all from right here in my hometown in Eastern Kentucky. This is one of the #1 places in the United States that really needs jobs right now, and every purchase helps us make an impact here. So what are you waiting for? Get you a bag of Nader Beans right now by clicking on the link in the description. Also, browse the site a little bit. We've got NOAA weather radios and all that good stuff. Once again, go ahead and click that link in the description to go to ShopRyanHall.com, and then we're going to get right back into the video. All right, last but not least, let's look a little bit into the future here and see what we're dealing with as far as, you know, what are we looking like? We tried to cool off for a little bit, but the heat is returning, but the rest of us are really either right around average or below average. But of course, the South is going to continue to be hotter than heck. 2 p.m. Monday, June 6th, we're going to have a hot and steamy day across a lot of the South. Looky here, up here in the Northwest, we're cooler than average. Pretty typical summertime stuff, as we have pretty much zonal flow all the way through June 12th from what I can tell. Look at all these straight lines going over the lower 48 here. Usually you got to see them kinks, okay? You want to see them troughs and ridges if you're looking for anything interesting to happen in the weather world. We are not seeing that, son. We are flatlined as we go all the way through June 12th. So not saying that we're not going to see any storms. We'll still see some moisture coming up from the Gulf, meeting up with some of these boundaries and causing some intermittent storms. But as far as big, sweeping, severe storm systems or any more tropical systems in the very near future, I don't see anything there. It might be time for your friendly weather dude to go on a little vacation. Go get my feet in the sand. Go touch some grass. Get out of this weather room for a little bit. Nope, can't do it. As soon as I do, the storm of the century will hit. I'm just going to lock myself in this room, and I'm never, ever going to leave. A super huge shout out to all of our members over here. Thank you guys so much for being a part of the channel. A lot of people are asking if I'm going to go live for this tropical storm, and the answer to that is probably not. This tropical season, we're going to go live for every single hurricane, but it's got to be at least a category 1 before we dedicate all the resources necessary to do that live stream. I will have update videos for you here anytime those are necessary, but I don't think we're going to be doing a live stream. Still, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.